Welcome to episode 3 of the Global Exclusive Podcast. I'm your host, Hazard. Joining me as always is Barros, Cotton C, Muspel, and Shadowwalker. And Dream is making his debut this week, so we're really excited for that. We also have a special guest today, which is Meme Lord. He's agreed to come on the podcast and talk about himself a little bit and kind of how he contributes to the community. So we're really excited. We also have our sponsor for this week, which is EX Tickets. EX Tickets, the units of yesterday, today.
All right. I like it. I'm not editing this either. Just saying.
So,
what's a Galef?
They didn't mean to nerf Dexter, but they did nerf her.
Okay, all right, so let's get into it. We have 4 units this week. That is pretty exciting. Who wants to go first?
Let's talk about Signacio first.
I think we should start with the boring unit, which is Sweet Nicole.
All right. Yeah, sounds good.
All right, so Sweet Nicole is a mage. He deals about as much damage as Zyrus, and there's not really much of anything else to say about him.
All right, on to the next unit.
Awesome. That was the fastest unit preview we ever did.
I think Nicole has a bit more going on for him compared to Cyrus, since Cyrus has absolutely no utility at all, while our friend Nicole has a tiny bit of a very tiny bit of support. I mean, it's not the best, but
yeah, he's got
MP
like elemental
restore.
resists and MP restore, and I think that's it, right?
I mean, if you're into flood shining or freeze shining, he might be your unit of choice.
Yeah,
he's one of those units you'd rather not pull them, except if you're going for the
he is obviously the troll
TMR,
banner for Sweet Luca. Like no. Wait, are they? They are sharing. They are going to share a banner, right?
Yeah, I think they will.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
They're actually already in the pool. I pulled Sweet Luca off an EX ticket this morning.
Really? Also, wow! Congratulations, she's a great unit.
Well,
Which is a great
I'm
thank you into the next unit.
I have better units, but
She's
Yeah.
good.
I don't know if
All right. This is going to be a discussion because I think she's really good. But okay. Should we do Sweet Luca next? Because nobody really wants to talk about Nickel. Like, he has nothing going for him.
Basically, he's fine.
Sure, why not?
I mean,
one
like,
thing
okay, he does damage.
not
He's a mage,
bad.
right?
It's just that he exists.
One thing
yeah,
with
it's
Nicole
not that he's bad.
he
It's
has
just not
CP.
interesting. There's nothing to talk about.
It's like-
He's a damage dealer.
It's like the twins last week. I don't think the twins last week were bad. It's just there's not much to say about them. They exist. If you get them, good for you.
I mean, with the twins, you could at least argue over how viable they were as like combined damage dealers / healers, or how useful Mirage was. With Nicole, it's like there's not even that. There's nothing to say about him.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. But you know what? He deals more damage than Terra. Okay.
Yes, because
Again,
Terra is
Tiana
like
does more damage than
heightened
Terra.
epitome of mages.
Okay. I
right?
really did not need to hear that right now. Okay.
Like Terra is the well, yeah, okay.
There is one slightly unique thing about Nicole, and that's compared to most mages, his damage is single target, which might be a slight advantage for Dark Visions because it won't end when the enemy dies, but he also needs a non-dupe partner that does the same for that to be good.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. And it's quite rare, really, right? Who else do we have? Like, I know Morgana has some single target.
Does Christine have some? I forget.
I actually
think,
forgot to.
I know like
King.
her chain capping skills are single target, but I didn't call. Somebody else did her damage on the spreadsheet, so I don't really remember what her new rotation is.
Yeah, but the thing is, for Christine, it doesn't matter, right? Because you're going to be doing 1 Chaos Wave into 3 finishers, right? So in her case, like, you'd be doing single target damage anyway with everything that overkills.
I think her Chaos Wave Awakened move is strong enough that just casting that wouldn't really be that big a deal.
Yeah, she can't really use her finisher rotation for Dark Visions because it is very dupe requirement.
But I just
Oh.
checked, and her Chaos Wave Awakened move is AoE. So
You'd also have to keep in mind that Sweet Nicole isn't in the pool after a week or so, or two, who knows. So
I'm pretty sure that.
Wait.
Yeah.
No, okay, I take that back. I'm sorry, I forgot. Sweet Nicole and Sweet Luca aren't limited. Only Ignacio and Sakura.
Ignacio and
I have such a beautiful story to tell. Let's wait until we get to that unit first.
I can hear Barrows breathing heavily.
A short pronunciation guide. It's Nickel, not Nicole.
You sure?
Sure.
Yes,
are you
that's
sure?
what we're going with, because Nicole is a girl's name and nickel is a type of metal-like substance.
X for doubt.
Yeah, listen, I'm gonna call him whatever I want, okay?
But he is unlimited.
I think either way, it's better than Regina.
Oi!
I mean, like, that's what the unit name is. I don't know what you want.
I hope for everyone who hears Nickel has to think of Nickelback, a horrible band in my opinion.
Listen. Now you're being unfair. Like, I listened to a fair amount of Nickelback in my early 20s, okay?
Ooh, this might be a rough podcast then.
It's like I still have, like, I can hum some of their songs still.
I hope this isn't the experience that you were talking about earlier.
All right. Listen, before we start fighting, let's move on.
So Dream is a regular contributor, and unlike Cotton, he actually does sound like a person who's from New Zealand area, right?
Hey, I'm a couple episodes late, but I'm still earlier than the expert missions.
Burned.
That's
We're just really disappointed that Cotton doesn't have the Australian accent we all thought she would. So I'm really glad that we have a little bit of that power now in the podcast.
True.
Nice.
And we're also joined by the illustrious Meme Lord. You guys probably know him as a person who does weekly reviews on new releases, the new units, but even more notorious for the fact that he got Esther nerfed. So welcome to the podcast, Meme Lord. How you doing?
Hey man, I'm doing good. I'm Meme Lord, formerly known as Philip as well, but you can call me Meme, you can call me Phil, I don't give a shit. Can I swear in this?
Yes.
Anyway,
yes,
I do...
Philip Lord, Meme Philip.
What?
So can we
Excuse
call
me?
you Philip Lord?
Philip.
Philip Lord.
Oh.
Philip Lord. I think that's a rather unfitting match.
Meme lip.
But yeah, if you want to, I can also talk in a more German way, since I am German and right now I might not sound as much as...
Yeah, I was thinking, like, can you sound more like you're about to invade Poland, kind of?
Do you want me to invade Poland? I don't think this is... I really don't think this is a good idea.
I don't think it's a great idea either.
I'm the one who's gotten Esther nerfed, and I'm really proud of it.
Yes, and I'm so happy you did it because it was well needed.
You got Esther nerfed, but you also
so
got
many
Sylvie
people were
nerfed.
really happy that I nerfed one of their favorite units that hasn't even been released yet.
But you got
This is
Sylvie
insane.
nerfed.
Yeah, Sylvie did deserve it. Come on, man.
Sylvie didn't deserve that.
Sylvie brought that on herself.
Sorry, I really have to question many people's opinion about what's happened back then, because I've made a post, okay, it was written in a rather aggressive way. I do admit that. I do admit it wasn't the best way to, well, talk about.
It's so funny, though.
But, oh my god. I know I've been most definitely a factor for why she's got nerfed, but I'm not the sole reason. There was a lot of discussion going on inside my thread, outside my thread, inside other forums, etc. How broken she is and how she might end up ruining the game for a long time. And I think Gumi also realized that it's not the best strategy in order to make good income, because damage dealers are probably one of their highest income sources in this game, since, well, every 2 weeks or so, there's a new hot damage dealer that's above everybody else, who's, oh my god, he deals 20% more damage than my Adol King Ryan. I need him right now, you know?
What's funny about that was I didn't even realize that you had posted anything until the next day. I thought people were just giving you crap for no reason.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, it's only because I remember the post you wrote, and it's only because you kind of had this one line in your post that said, "Please, Gumi, don't do this," or something like that. It was like you wrote it as if you were talking. If that line didn't exist, nobody would give a fuck. But that line was there, and they were like, "Okay, meme lord, thank you for ruining our bunny girl with a shit sprite and terrible moveset." And they were all like, "Oh my god, we love Esther so much."
I don't think that was the reason. I think that even the title of the thread was more than enough for so many people to downvote or to look down on it as a negative thread, because the title was "Please Nerf Esther," if I recall correctly, and that's a typical Reddit title, which I normally don't do. I try to avoid as many personal threads as I can, because exactly of these things where stuff gets very opinionated. Is that word? I don't know.
Well, to be honest, if you've posted on Reddit more than once or twice, you've probably encountered controversy no matter who you are.
Yeah.
I've encountered a bit of controversy across the almost 3 years of reviewing units, so
you wouldn't believe there's a mob outside my house right now protesting you being on this podcast. It's really kind of ridiculous.
Yeah,
I mean, have you seen the amount of controversy Muswell collects? I think he loves collecting them.
Yeah. It's like achievements nowadays. But I mean, like, you have to look at it this way, right? This is a game about units that people get passionate about, and there are so many factors involved in it. Like, there's luck, because if you accidentally pull a certain unit, you get this attachment to it. If you like its sprite or you hype yourself up for it, like Esther, it like all of this gets so emotional, so that anytime someone lowers your favorite unit by 0.5, people lose their shit. And I mean, like, that's how it's supposed to be.
Is it time for us to lower Esther's rating again?
Yeah, she's like too high. 18.5, that is ridiculous. She should be like 12.
I think that we just start lowering her rating every single episode that we don't get enough views on the podcast.
Wait. No, I think that's actually going to have the opposite effect.
It actually leads me to a question, though, for me, which is, how do you handle the criticism? Because you have, a more visible role, I guess, on the subreddit and in the FFBE community. How do you handle criticism of reviews? For example, like I see you all the time on Reddit or Discord taking crap about different reviews you've had. So how do you handle that?
I personally, since I run a YouTube channel as well, which is unrelated to FFB, you have to distinct which kind of criticism. If somebody tells you, "Oh my god, that review was trash. Oh my god, this is just so wrong. He's so fucking dumb. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He's so disconnected from the game." If you read that kind of these kind of comments, you can just pass by them. They are not worth a single moment of thought. And then you have other people who write up to like it feels like 5 pages worth of a comment. And even though it's much more work to read through that and reply to them, that is proper criticism in most cases. I do appreciate proper criticism, and I do try my best to reply to it. Sometimes I can't because I'm busy, but I go over all comments on my reviews. Even if I don't reply to them, I read through all of them.
So kind of like you've gotten used to it, right? This like negativity.
At first, I think I've written reviews for 1.5 years until I've posted on Reddit, so I've got slightly used to it, because the forum, while it is a nice place to stay, of course, people do criticize your work and some don't like it. But when I first started posting on Reddit, the difference was pretty big. People were a lot more direct, a lot more honest about their opinion, and definitely weren't too shy to share those information with you. So I had to get used to Reddit a bit at first, but I really didn't have any major issues. Again, comments that trying to mock me, trying to provoke me, or just don't have any criticism at all, but just their own opinion in them, I just in my mind, I just say, okay, that's fine. You do you, I don't care.
I think in some ways you have it harder than we do, because like we have for the wiki readings, we get some of that stuff too, but we have a team of people, and sometimes we even get funny cases where people will blame the wrong person for something. Like there was this one guy who assumed that we were rating Esther lower because Trag, who he said was our ringleader, was responsible for
yes.
under
What do you
rating
mean
Esther.
said? What do you mean said?
I thought Trag was a ringleader.
Yeah, Trag is our ring.
Jesus.
No, was Trag
This
is
is
our
like my
ringleader.
world is falling apart now.
I sent him my SIN number. What do I do now?
Like I literally ask him what I should vote for every time we have a vote in the channel.
I think even if people do that, I think the best is to ignore them, because many people who do rants online certainly seek for some sort of attention.
Yeah, well, let's not forget again. Like a lot of this stuff is just emotional, and that's fine. Like people can get a bit emotional, and they can because they like units, and I think that's half
Just
the
a
charm.
bit.
Just
Yeah,
a bit. Like
like most obviously being like super biased for that Noel
Machina.
AIKT.
I think the only units I actually care for are Final Fantasy X units. But I've in the past, I do have to admit, in the past I was quite biased towards Tidus. Nowadays I try to be as honest about them.
Oh, here we go.
Tidus. It's
No.
Tidus.
That's Tidus. Jesus Christ! Wait.
I won't go there. I will not go there.
The canon pronunciation is Tidus, and the canon pronunciation is wrong.
The canon pronunciation is wrong. Dream. Hold up. The canon pronunciation is Tidus. Therefore, that's the only pronunciation that's right.
Wait, but how do we know what canon is?
Because they've confirmed it.
Yeah.
But that's
So
like
what?
saying the canon pronunciation of
So
GIF is
what?
GIF.
Just.
So it's the canon pronunciation of Fina?
Yes.
I don't know. Is it Finer?
It's Finer.
Finerf Esther.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I'm sorry, but I will never say Tidus. Like he's gonna be Tidus in my heart forever. Because
that's fine. I won't shit talk you because of it. I know many people who say Tidus. I know a few people who say Tidus. Personally, I've gotten used to the canon pronunciation, so I don't care.
I mean, this is one of those criticisms that you can just ignore. Barros is just, he's just trolling.
I know. But I've been biased towards Tidus in the past. Nowadays, I try to my best. I've gotten so many comments back in the day that I was too biased. Nowadays, I try not to be. I even admit at this point that Oren, for example, isn't really the best anymore. But he will soon be. Soon, he'll have some nice SPBs.
Oh yeah, that's true. He's getting enhancements this month. Oh yeah.
No, Jacked is getting enhancements.
Oh, that's Jacked?
I think it's only Jacked.
Yeah,
Oren still doesn't even have enhancements in JP, and it's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, but I mean, like, he's a unit that doesn't need it. He's a breaker. Like, breakers, they follow...
Oh, you'd be surprised. Have you seen his JP SPBs?
It's pretty sweet.
His SPBs are really good.
Oh, okay.
You haven't seen them?
No.
Oh my, you'll be in for... He gets so much damage. It's insane.
But so does old Tidus. I think old Tidus gets a lot of damage.
Yeah, but he's a breaker, and his secondary role as a damage dealer gets amped up by so much that it's actually valuable.
I think for the time, it's just kind of mediocre.
But all right, should we get back into Sweet Luca? Maybe, because we left that segment 20 minutes
ago. Quite off topic.
Doesn't matter. It was fun.
Off topic on this podcast?
Yeah, we never do that.
Right, that never happens. All right, everything is on topic.
Listen, you guys that are listening, we actually do have an agenda. We're just really good at not following it, okay? Like, we just try really hard to not follow it.
All right, Sweet Luca.
Yes. I actually want to talk about this unit because there's one very interesting topic to talk about.
Oh, the RNG factor?
Yes, the RNG factor.
I think, okay, so if I may, I think Sweet Luca is a bit inconvenient. Like, she's obviously one of the best supports we have. But clearly, with 50% chance of getting what you need versus not getting what you need, why would you do that dice roll when you don't have to with other units like Ignis?
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying.
Because Ignis can't stand barriers.
Yeah, and like, okay, I mean, it's 50%. So let me just, those that are listening and don't know, so Luca has a skill that has a 25% chance of unlocking a really powerful skill that lets her apply a 200% AoE all parameters buff.
And just for the record, the unlock, once you get it, it's permanent, as long as she doesn't die.
Permanent, exactly. And so it's 200% buffs, it's 30% damage mitigation, and it's a 3k barrier to your entire team, spammable every turn once you get the unlock. And the thing is, like, turn 1, you can cast your unlock ability twice, giving you ish a 50% chance of unlocking it. And then you can keep doing
it. She has 2 cooldowns that each have a 50% chance to unlock it. So she can use both of those on turn 1.
If that's the chance, I mean, if you have 3 abilities and you can even W cast in the first turn and it's permanent, then I think the RNG factor's a lot smaller than people are making it out to be.
The RNG factor, at first people in JP thought she's a very bad unit, then Whoop found out that it's a permanent unlockable, and then people started to realize, okay, the RNG factor really isn't that bad because the payoff was totally worth it, but people back then in JP didn't have Cecil at the time, and we do, and I think people who do run double tank compositions with Cecil in them, which many do. I've seen so many people pulling him, actually. If you don't, okay. But I want to get into that first. She's not really that meta-breaking if you happen to have Cecil. And if you do run him with a secondary tank, because you'll be able to manage to buff for 180% death and spirit with him. And most damage dealers nowadays have their own attack buffs or magic buffs for that category. And by then, you'll gain a 3k HP barrier. Now you have to look at other tanks. Look at Awakened Warrior of Light. He has a spammable barrier as well. Look at Dr. Aiden. He has spammable barriers as well.
He can heal.
It really depends.
But let's leave that.
No, he can't really. Not really.
Oh, Cotton, shut up.
But he can't. It's true. Like, we've talked about this so many, like every episode we've mentioned this, okay?
No, he can heal. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
No, he literally can't. Like, he has like no healing ability.
I'm just here to derail the conversation.
But listen, what I want to say is, I hear what you're saying. I mean, like, there are units that bring what she does, but it's still quite powerful to have the support that gives you the strongest buffs right now. The like a 3k barrier is also incredibly powerful, as well as some mitigation if you ever need low mitigation. But I think the rest of her kit is also very well made to imperil and imbue, which I actually think is super valuable in certain team comps.
Especially for dark visions.
Depending on which units you already have in your own roster, she can go from being an amazing upgrade to completely unnecessary. So I think really the major issue with Sweet Luca is that you can't make an easy general statement, since the value of the unit distributes way differently depending on what you have. And speaking of the last tanks, especially Cecil, were really hot units, and so many people tried to get them. And some have gotten 11 Palom and Poroms instead of Cecil.
Sorry, Lemon.
I'm so sorry, Lemon. If you're listening to this, my heart is with you. I love you.
Thoughts and prayers.
Our thoughts and prayers.
Stop pulling.
Yeah, like, you're never going to get him. Stop.
I even got a Palom and Porom myself today, so I'm a tiny bit salty.
The problem that I have with Sweet Luca is that when you compare her to other supports, the only thing she has that's all that special really is the 3k barrier. And that's nice, but when I'm thinking about which units to pull for, I mean, 3k barriers aren't even unique to her. Like, Aldor King Rain has a spammable 3k barrier. You can't really use it every turn.
Yeah, but you're dropping his damage quite a bit to use that.
I mean, there's off turns of that
when you're T-casting in his non-LB turns,
it's really easy to slot in the barrier on his non-LB turns, but on the LB turns it is scary. But you can have like Fulka or somebody handle a barrier on that turn.
Yeah, like there's so many people that can spam barriers by this point that the 3k barrier isn't something so unique to this support that you must pull her. And her 200 spammable 200% buffs are nice, but again, we already have like Luna Freya and other units that can give you 200% buffs to all your units.
I think if they've given her more damage mitigation on this spell as well, or the ability, it would have been a lot better, because 30% general mitigation gets easily outclassed by other units who don't even focus on that. So you have a unit who can spam the same buff all over and over again. But effectively, you're only going to refresh your barrier unless you've been dispelled. And as you said, so many units nowadays bring even 1000 HP barriers with them that a 3k barrier that's spammable isn't too amazing. It's still good, and it's fine, but I don't think it's really
if she
necessary.
were on the banner alone, or if Sweet Nicole were somehow special beyond just being another mage, it might be more justifiable to pull on this banner. But I think for most people, it's just not a very good investment.
Yeah, it's a terrible banner to go in on. Yes.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Plus, it's not limited, so you can just pick her up later anyway.
I do think her TM is pretty good, though.
Yeah, Trust Master is insanely good.
Yeah, I just want one of that.
I honestly do plan on moogling them if I don't get one.
It's obviously at first glance it's amazing for tanks, but even for mages, I think it's pretty solid because mages usually have a lot of trouble bulking up, and it only has 30 flat magic, but it's got 30% HP and defense and SPR and flat HP on top of that, and that seems pretty helpful. Of course, mages in general have gearing problems, but this is a step in the right direction.
So maybe we can talk about the 2 limited units. I guess there's technically 4 people as 2 units, which I hate. But one of them is Sieghard and Ignacio, which I call Ignacio, and Barros calls it a little something different.
Little something different?
No, listen, this is the way we're supposed to. Okay, first of all, like on the wiki, if you type in big hard, you're gonna be redirected to Sieghard and Ignacio. It is the.
That's because you made the page.
Yeah. Wait
there is no way you can prove that.
You made your own redirect.
There's like literally no way you can prove it.
Hey, Fencer, if you're listening to this podcast, please fix it.
Fencer, Shadow is a lying piece of shit. Don't do anything, okay? Like, there's nothing. Like, no. Okay, listen, but okay. Yes, the name is Big Hard, obviously, because we have Bignacio and Sieghard making up a unit. So it's like makes super sense. Everyone knows that. But I want to share something that I did that like still makes me feel a bit bad and really, really stupid. So you said it, Hazard.
Kids, don't do this at home.
Yeah, don't do this at home. So Hazard, you just said it. Like the banner was limited, right? I had no idea. So I was actually like going in. I'm like looking for one Sieghard or one Sayaka. And I was pulling, I was buying Lapis because I had 0 Lapis and I was just going all in. And when I pulled
Kids
one unit,
really don't do this at home.
Yeah, don't. Like put down mom's credit card right now. Like, just leave it, okay? And I got one Sayaka and I was so happy. I was writing in Discord. I was like, oh yes, I got it already on the 3rd step. So happy. I go in, I go into the what's it called? The summon where you use your UOCs.
UOC?
Yeah, and then like, she's not listed here. I thought she should start with an S, and that's when I realized my mistake. And of course, I had to like complete the lap and do a couple of more steps just in order to get anything out of this investment. Though the story does end happily because I did score the best unit in GL right now, which is Big Hard. So I'm still happy, but really stupid.
Very at least you're better off than Lemon.
Let's talk about Signacio because I think
Big Hard.
He's probably the most Meg Collects unit I've seen in a while. In fact, this is probably the most Meg Collects banner we've had in a long time.
Sorry, the most what?
What are you saying?
It's just so mediocre. I don't know. Like it's
too many abbreviations here.
To me, the fact that we've had so many great Collects units the past few weeks, like past few events, right? We've got the Chinese New Year units and the Christmas units and the Black Friday units. Like all of these were really, really good. And then Gloomy comes along with these. It just, I don't know, deflated my excitement for pulling on this banner. I was ready to pull on for Sakura and Ayaka because I really like both of them. I really like Sakura and Ayaka, and I've used them a lot. And this was like a great chance for me to go in, but it was just, I got.
You're just kind of disappointed because Sieghard and Ignacio are 2 of some of the most beloved units in the FFBE universe.
Two of the most memeable units.
And and to have them on the same unit as a combined unit, and you could have a physical
combined unit
tank.
as a combined balanced Valentine's Day unit.
Oh yeah, no, it was a perfect storm to create a great unit, and unfortunately, it just kind of meh.
Yeah, but let's talk about Big Heart. Like I love to talk about Big Heart because it is the best unit, and I get to say Big Heart a lot, which I also enjoy saying Big Heart. So the unit is really, unfortunately, two-faced. They did try to do, so obviously we're going to get a tank, and we're going to get a finisher. We knew this. We knew it also from the teaser, but it turns out that the unit is a much better finisher than a tank.
The unit itself is poorly designed. His or their tank capabilities are very poor, and their damage dealing capabilities are very high. But nowadays, it's just the usual, hey, I'm a damage dealer, I have to be better than the last banner in terms of damage. So I think this is why many people are so underwhelmed by this banner, because you have a unit that has potentially a very cool kit that could have worked out very well if they've given him lower modifiers but defense scaling instead, so he could actually tank and deal damage to have that dual unit feeling. But
the fact that if defense scaling would actually harm him more than hurt him, though, because if I'm not mistaken, the defense also uses the new damage formula.
It does, but if you had given him a TM that was like a weapon with high attack and high flat defense, it probably would have worked out fine.
I mean, I don't really mind that it's a unit that can do two roles in but gearing very differently for them. I actually think that's part of the charm. But the underwhelming bit, a little bit at least, is that like as a tank, the bulk falls in behind Sieghard, which is still a very, very old unit. So if you don't have a tank right now, or your best tank is Wilhelm, then yes, it's an upgrade. But otherwise, it's like not many people are going to find the tanking capabilities of Big Heart an upgrade.
To be fair, in terms of stats, Sieghard is very high up because he's got insanely good global exclusive buffs.
Yeah, Sieghard is one of the tankiest tanks. So the fact that Big Nasho is not as tanky as him doesn't make him squishy, but it's the fact that he's squishier than Wilhelm that makes him squishy.
It's a good unit, but it's just nothing new at this point. It's
as a tank,
not surprising.
He's not top tier. He's got 40% mitigation, and if you don't have a tank with mitigation, that's good to have.
If you aren't a super whale, his damage is also outstanding. If you are a super whale, no.
He'll need an external imbue to do good damage, which isn't that big an ask, but it does require you to team build around him in a way that can be uncomfortable for some people, depending on their roster.
A finisher, you're already building a team around a finisher. So,
although interestingly, Signacio's TM ability is also enabled if you use Signacio's or Sieghard or Ignacio's Trust Masteries or Super Trust Masteries. So if you are a super whale, you could just give him Ignacio's Super Trust Masteries, which is a two-handed fire axe, and it works.
Yeah, that's how I'm using him.
You could also just give him his own STMR, though, although that obviously requires whaling more or using a Super Trust Moogle.
Oh, I didn't even realize that works.
Yeah, it's really good, especially for bulk, because you can give him Sieghard's shield, for instance, STMR shield, and still trigger his...
If you give him shield, you're losing out on the damage.
No, I meant for bulk. Like, it makes sense for bulk, because you don't really want his TMR if you're bulking up. So.
Right.
But one thing that I think we haven't discussed. So yeah, as a finisher, he actually does insane damage. He does a lot. If you like running finishers instead of chainers, he's actually a fun unit. But one thing that I found him really useful for is that he actually has 50% innate provoke. So he is quite easy to run with full evade, full or passive provoke build as a imperiler buffer for your team. And it actually works really well. I tried this out on the new Zeromus trial.
But if you want to do that, the original Ignacio unit is better, unless you want the AoE cover. If you don't need the AoE cover, the original Ignacio does a better job at that.
He does, but he is a bit harder to gear for passive provoke and evade at the same time.
Is it?
Yeah, because Big Heart has 50% passive provoke, so you
I'm
don't
pretty
have to
sure
waste.
regular Ignacio has that as well. Let me check.
He doesn't. He has an active provoke, but he doesn't have passive draw.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he doesn't.
Yeah, he doesn't have passive draw. He has active.
Oh. I thought
So, I mean, you can still do it if you have some STMRs for evasion and stuff. But if you don't have STMRs for evasion, then it's going to be really tricky on OG Ignacio. But it's actually very easy to do on Big Hard, and it's very useful. Like I like it. I mean, it's obviously not the best thing you can do in the game, but it's still there.
The problem that I would have with using him in that context is that his imbues, they're not always available. They're stuck behind an unlock, and the unlock doesn't last very long, and the imbues themselves don't last long either. So you end up having to do some annoying juggling of durations if you're trying to make it work like that.
Yeah, and that's true. I had to do it on the Zeromus trial, and it also sucked on the Zeromus trial because he dispels.
I also just kind of feel like at this point, if you need an external imbue or imperil, Luna Freya handles that better than almost anyone else, and which is
exactly.
Yeah.
One of the many reasons
even
why
original Ignacio handles it better.
Yeah, but the thing is, like both of them are.
Just
my point was they are both of them hard to gear. Yeah, like both of them would be hard to gear as passive provoke evasion, though. That's kind of the only thing the unit has going for it.
Right. You have a point in there that passive provoke evasion, but like, is that really a niche that like, I guess to pull for? But
no, not at all to pull for.
Yeah.
But it's a nice thing to know about. Like it's a nice benefit of the unit, especially like if you run a passive provoke evader that also can cover and then buff and imbue imperil. Yeah.
One thing that annoys me about Sieghart Ignacio is that it feels like when they were designing his kit, they weren't really thinking about how to make him usable for less specific team comps. Like his rotation without an external imbue or an elemental weapon STMR is garbage. He can't maintain his imbue, or if he does, then he's losing like almost all of his damage because his cooldown that buffs his next LB can't be multicast. And then he wants to use his LB on the turn after that, and then his imbue expires. And then you've got 3 turns with no imbue.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, for some reason, I do really get the feeling that this unit was kind of designed with wailing it out in mind, because he does reward you heavily if you can wail him out.
I just think that I generally like it if units didn't have such a low floor, because this is a unit that can be really, really bad in the wrong situations. And I think that even for Gumi, it makes sense for everybody to want to pull for a unit, even if it's not the best. But for Big Heart, if you can't set him up right, then he's just not even worth thinking about.
For people who can wail him out, he's amazing, but I don't think so. I think if you really can wail out units, you should use Sid.
Not necessarily, because a lot of newer fights punish jumps.
I mean, that's true.
And one thing that he as a finisher has going for him is actually the exact same thing that Sid has going for him as well, which is compared to other finishers, you don't have to support chain every turn, which is very, very nice. And another thing about Big Hard is also that you can delay his damage dealing turn if you want. Like there's only one you can't delay, and that is the LB after the cooldown, because that's like you have the LB damage buff, so you have to LB on that turn. But it's actually really useful as a finisher to be able to delay your big burst, because you might not be able to support chain on that turn.
In my opinion, in terms of realistic use of finishers, I do think Crown Prince Noctis is by far the best, even if he doesn't have the highest burst damage or even highest average damage for whales. He is just so useful in actual situations.
Yeah, no, absolutely agreed.
Like you said, his damage doesn't look impressive on paper, but he's very simple to use, and you can gear him in different ways. He's got killer buffs, which can make him a lot more flexible.
He's a lot bulkier due to true dual wield.
Yeah.
And he has a lot of utility, so it's like, it's not too bad. Like, most finishers just stay there to do damage, but this guy, he buffs, he fills LBs for other people, he kind of breaks, kind of. So the utility exists.
I mean, I wouldn't really praise his utility.
I'm saying it exists. I'm not saying it's.
Are we talking about Crown Prince Noctis or Big Hard?
No, I'm talking about Big Ignacio.
Oh yeah. He has decent utility, especially The biggest part, again, like I said before, is the 40% mitigation on his LB.
Exactly, and even like for finishers, that's a pretty big deal. From a tank perspective, his utility isn't really up to par, even compared to Wall or Galoof. But the fact that from a finisher's perspective, that utility comes in real nicely, especially when you need to fill your team in the finisher comp with other supports that imbues you, or well, not abuse, but support chains rather. So
what's a Galoof?
Oh wow,
Galoof.
Oh, here we go.
Oh,
We're
here
gonna
we go.
What's a galoof? That sounds like a vacuum cleaner.
It's Galoof. There's no other good pronunciation for that. Galoof sounds terrible. Galoof sounds even worse.
I'm tempted to just use Galoof.
It's Galoof. G-A-L-U-F.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with you on that one, Hazard. It's actually
Okay,
Galoof.
so one of the things that needs to
join
happen
the Galoof
this
club.
year is that Gumi or Square Enix needs to reach out to us and give us all the correct pronunciation, so we don't have to go through this crap every 5 minutes.
One of these days, we'll have an episode where we don't argue over.
Yeah, if you expect them to have the correct translations, I mean, Finer.
Finer.
You get the pronunciations from Square Enix and Gummy.
I don't think they meant to call her Finer in the teaser video. I don't think that was intended. That sounded horrible.
They don't mean to do a lot of things, but they do it.
Yeah.
I mean,
they didn't mean to nerf Esther, but they did nerf her.
No. They didn't mean to nerf Esther, but Meme Lord made sure that they nerfed Esther.
I've even reached out to Square Enix and asked if I was the reason they nerfed her, and they confirmed to me that I wasn't. Of course, you can take that with a grain of salt. I won't neglect that. But officially, I am not the reason for the nerf. Officially. Just as canon as Tidus pronunciation.
And as you know, we can always trust the official word of Gumi.
Mm-hmm. True. That's true.
So should we move on? We have one more unit and then another segment too.
Yeah, the next unit I do personally feel like is disappointing.
So is this Sayaka or Sayaka, or how you guys want to pronounce it?
Let's just say Sayaka.
Aikura?
I say Saka.
Ayakura.
Yikes, that sounds horrible. Please, never say that again.
What, Saka? I mean, it makes sense. Like, Sakura and the end of Ayaka is Saka. I don't know. Like, it's
Ayakura.
It's the same logic I use for composing Big Hard.
Sakaka.
So overall, they feel a lot like Myra to me. They're not exactly the same. The biggest difference is that Myra can multicast her Entrust, and Sayaka cannot. So that's obviously a pretty big difference. But aside from that, they both have stat buffs. They both got ailment immunity, although Sayaka is better at it. They both got barriers. Myra can spam her. Sayaka's are bigger, but on a cooldown. They both have AoE re-raise, and so on. There's a lot of similarities between them. Which one is better? I think it depends on what you're trying to do. I think that for a lot of people, Sayaka is going to be a little bit better, but not by much. If you were really relying on Myra's Entrust, then Myra is obviously better.
I think the main reason to pick Myra these days is the Entrust.
That's definitely true, but there's some people for whom she's really their best or only viable healer.
Okay, but if we go with that argument, so many units becomes suddenly better simply because others don't have. If you have to assume that, okay, you only have worse units, then of course it's better. If it's better than what you have, use it. That's a logical process of going through.
Yeah, but I mean, like as a ranking, isn't that exactly what we want to do? I mean, tell you, like, if you only have Myra, Saka is going to be better.
But probably not by enough to pull for her. If you
exactly.
have a lot of, I just think that for the kind of person that has access to a lot of different healers, they're probably not going to use Sayaka that much, because if you're using Myra, it's for the Entrust probably, and if you're not, the other healers provide really solid utility in ways that Sayaka doesn't. I think I could see rare situations where Sayaka would be useful.
I think the biggest issue with that evaluation is I don't overvalue Entrust, but Entrust on a healer that can be multicasted is a huge advantage for players who do not have a lot of gear requirements because it enables them to do certain plays. Such, for example, if they have Charlotte and not Cecil, they can occasionally turn one Charlotte's LB, which is insanely good for them. Or they have a support unit like Luna Freya, and boom, you have elemental resistance buffs and you have a huge stat buff, which you wouldn't have with Sayaka. And I think in these cases especially, it's very important. And if they have pulled for a damage dealer who has a good limit burst, I'm just going to assume someone like Rain. They might even be able to burst down the trial more quickly than Sayaka, for example. So I do think too many people overvalue the entrust on Myra, but in this case, I do think it gives her an edge on Sayaka.
I mean, like, I think that the problem is that nowadays there's not that many units that have powerful LBs that you can't just maintain normally. Getting Charlotte's LB up on turn 1, even with Myra's help, is not very consistent because Myra's LB costs what, 30, 36? I think it's 30. So even if you have Myra and Truster on turn 1, it's pretty likely that Charlotte's LB will not be completely full, even after you get some LB crystal drops from the boss, because that would require some pretty good luck in terms of who gets the crystal drops.
That again depends on your setup. Does your Charlotte have some TMRs like Mood Maker? How many crystals are you able to produce? If your other units perhaps cast an LB fill rate buff, it's just at that point, in my opinion, there are too many variables to really judge that. I do know that turn 1 Charlotte LB isn't hard to pull off.
So on average, you would get, if you get all 20 crystal drops from the boss, each individual unit would get 3.3 crystals on average. So even if you have a fill rate buff, that's about 10 crystals for each unit. You can go higher if you have some more passive fill rate gear or whatever on your units. But even then, if Myra is getting to like 15, then you're just barely getting Charlotte's LB full on average between the LB crystals that Charlotte has and the ones that Myra gives her. And it's not consistent. And it's something you can do. I don't know that it would be something I would want to rely on as I'm setting up a strategy.
What if you take the example you have Big Nazio too, so you could do AoE LB gauge increase. Flixmon,
I think if you have Big Natio, he just triple casts his LB fill on Charlotte, and her LB costs 22, and Big Natio would fill 18, and at that point you can just use like Lena or something and fill the rest of the way, and you don't need
but by your definition, it wouldn't be consistent, or would it?
It would be, because you would get 18 100% of the time from Big Natio, and then you could get 4 more from somebody else. Like Sayaka can do that. She has an ability that fills 4 crystals to the team.
Okay. But
I feel like sorry, go ahead.
No.
I feel like if Myra is your only healer, Sayaka is probably not worth pulling for, because even when she's better, she's not much better, and in some team comps she's worse. And if Myra isn't your only healer, Sayaka is probably still not worth pulling for, because the things that she does aren't that unique or powerful and not really worth the investment. I mean, obviously, if you're a whale, you can pull for whoever you want. You'll probably use her once in a while, but she's not really pushing the envelope in terms of healer design or power creep.
Yeah, even though it's not a quality.
I mean, although compared to Myra, Sayaka does have one thing going for her. She has more chaining support. Like, she has an elemental, lightning, and life resistance bolting strike chain that she can triple cast, so it can be quite interesting if you want to use her in an alternate team composition like that.
I think if you do end up pulling her, she's good and she's useful, but I think the point Muscle's making is on this kind of banner where it's limited units and it's a double unit banner, there's not a lot of uniqueness around her to lure you to pull, right?
Yeah, it's probably going to cost you, like, I haven't really done the math. I assume it's like 30,000, 40,000 lapis on average to get a 7-star of one of these 2 units.
I mean,
Baros, how much did it cost you?
Listen, let's never talk about this banner and buying lapis again, okay? That would be so good. But okay. But what I want to say is, it's such a shame that this banner is limited. Like, not just for my sake, but if it actually wasn't limited, this would be a great banner for a completely new player to pull on, because you're either gonna come out with a okay tank or really strong finisher or a really strong healer. But since it's a limited banner, like, nobody should ever pull on this banner. Like, I'm sorry.
I mean, if it wasn't a limited banner, I would have put. I mean, I did say during last week's podcast that I won't mind getting a Signacio, but that was before I found out it was a limited banner.
I said you always say you don't pull, but in the end you do pull.
If it was not a limited banner, I would probably pull for a copy of Sayaka, and then I would UOC a Prism, and then I would use an STMR Moogle on them.
What I find rather interesting about Signacio is his base stats are very lazy.
Oh god, the 214 memes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, why?
You have to congratulate Gumi for picking a team and sticking with it.
Speaking of 214, I want to talk about Sayaka's counter for a second, because this thing is a joke. It heals for 214 health with a 0.214x healing modifier, which is, I think I did the math, it heals for like 300, even if you have 2,000 spirit. It's god awful.
I mean, it is a love tap, right? You can't expect us to hit or heal someone that hard. It's a love tap.
Yeah.
But
I think the problem is that Gumi is, for whatever reason, Gumi is really afraid of breaking the game when it comes to weird unit designs, but not at all afraid of the game when it comes to normal unit designs.
Esther.
So we get incredibly broken damage dealers or healers or tanks, but then they'll make like a dot-based unit like Kaito, and they make his damage probably about a third of what it would have to be for him to be competitive.
I mean, to be fair, if Kaito's damage was broken, you don't have to put in any effort for him to work.
Right,
so.
but would he be any more broken than Esther was on release?
You mean would have been broken?
No, if they tripled his damage, he would. If they tripled his damage, using a single Kaito would have been comparable to what, like a pair of Elisperis?
No, if it was triple, then that would be like 24 bill.
No, because right now
that
he's
would
at
be
he's at like 5 billion damage per turn, right?
Oh, I thought he was at like 7 or 8.
That's so awful.
But it would be equivalent to a pair of like ones around 12, so that's like Enhanced Show or Lowland Laswell, and that's a pair of them equivalent by 1 unit if he was that strong.
So we've been discussing units for a long time. Maybe we should talk about the final segment, which is about the new trial that we just got.
Man, I had a rough time with this trial, actually, because
really?
As you guys know, I don't really use evasion ever, and I always single tank everything. So I took Charlotte as my tank, and she's pretty well geared, and I had Dr. Aiden, and I had Sylvie as my supports, and Kryla as my breaker. And I was getting absolutely whomped on by Meteor, which happens I believe the second turn. If I wasn't guarding, I was getting destroyed by Meteor. And then on the fourth turn, he does the black hole and then dispels your entire team. And I was also getting destroyed by that. So I had a passive provoke on Charlotte. So she was doing all the tanking duties. So I actually ended up unit of choice selecting a second Luna Freya and swapping her with Sylvie. And that actually made all the difference. That 50 and 40% magic mitigation allowed me to survive it. But I was having a really rough time. I think a lot of people didn't struggle because Cecil got the series bonus buff on this boss and is also significantly tankier than even Charlotte. But I had a rough time.
Disgusting.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I used Chow with the similar stats as you, Hazard. I did not have Luna Freya for magic mitigation. I was just using focus. And I had the breaks and the buffs as usual, but my Chow survived, so I have no idea why you had so many issues with it.
I have no idea.
Just a bad player.
I mean, like, I think were you just trying to tank all the single target hits with a single unit? Because I think, like, if you're not doing evasion, it's just better to let him hit your team randomly and just survive.
I was actually using Dr. Aiden's cooldown provoke.
There's your problem. You didn't use a healer.
No. I was No, Dr. Aiden has a one turn.
Yeah, it was a joke, Hazard.
Okay, fine. We've been serious for way too long in this podcast. Now I can't even recognize the sarcasm.
Yeah. You should just when you see my name light up, you should just assume.
Well, okay. So what I was doing is I had 170% buffs with Sylvie. I had 50% mitigation with Charlotte. I had 30% physical mitigation. I had 25% magical mitigation with Sylvie. And I was also guarding, and I had Dr. Aiden's 10K barrier on Charlotte, and Aiden was taking all the physical hits, and I was still getting absolutely destroyed. I also had 75% breaks. It's bizarre. I can't figure it out.
Break?
I mean,
no, I have 75% breaks up. Charlotte had 26K health and 1800 spirit, 200% fire resist.
I mean, one of my runs was literally only Charlotte as a tank, nobody provoking, and I never had any problems just with Charlotte's mitigation from her LB and a 30% magic mitigation. That's it.
So the only thing I changed was I swapped Sylvie with
did
Luna
you
Freya.
break the boss?
No. Yes, I broke the boss. I had.
Wait, you said no.
Break. Sorry, I thought you were asking a different question.
This would have been a good joke. You should have just said no and stopped.
So whatever he would have asked, you just replied with a no anyway.
That's what I should have done. I honestly don't get it. The only thing I did differently the second time around, and I tested this about 10 different times before I switched to Luna Freya, is because I tried to do 75% magical mitigation with Charlotte's cooldown, and she still died. And all I did was I had Charlotte guard, and I swapped Sylvie's 25% magic mitigation buff with Luna Freya's 50% magic mitigation buff, and I survived with 13k health.
Yeah, I mean, I think I know what the problem is. The problem is you're really bad at this game.
Have you considered getting good?
I think I know the problem. I think that Hazard is saying that he was actually using Mercenary Ramza, and he's just telling us that he used somebody else, that he doesn't have to say that Mercenary Ramza died.
Yeah, that actually makes perfect sense.
So possibly he did use Merc Ramza.
That's my next one.
But you should try just letting your team take the hits, because that's just have a bulky team.
Yeah, I have no idea what went wrong, but I tried 7 or 8 times and then finally switched to Luna Freya.
But I had a lot of fun with this trial because, thanks to my tragic tale before, I did end up with one big heart, so I had to maximize the use of him for this trial. So I went in a couple of times. Once I used him as the passive provoke evader that just was imbuing my Noctii. That's 2 Noctis, right? Yeah, anyway, he was doing
Noctises.
Noctises. Yeah.
A gaggle of Noctises, a pod of Noctises.
An arena team of Noctis.
A Noctis, yeah. I remember that time still. That was actually, those were good times when Noctis was still really good in arena. But yeah, so that worked really well with Big Heart. And then I actually used Big Heart as a solo damage dealer. And that worked really well too. So I had a lot of fun with this trial, but the trial sucks because I realized while fighting this trial that dispel mechanics are just a stupid way to prolong the fight. And it's just, I hate it.
Yeah, Dispel and Mana Drain are both just frustrating, I find.
MP Drain, if it isn't too strong, it's fine. If it's Hasiko level, it's bad.
I mean, I'm not saying dispels are strong. It's just that it's an artificial slowdown. Like they just, we want you to take one more fight, just setting up your stupid team again.
Dispels have always been a thing in Final Fantasies, but in FFBE they are have very high impact compared to, hey, I'm in FF1. Oh, oops, I lose my damage buff. My slight, okay, it's not slight, but
there's so much active effect stacking that it's quite punishing when everything gets removed.
I think compared to other Final Fantasies, you had Protect, you had Shell, and you had Haste. That's the usual setup, and whoa, it's gone. You can easily reapply it. Not the
or
case.
You can just ignore it because you're not gonna die if you don't apply it again. You might have a harder fight, right?
Depends on the Final Fantasy.
Yeah, but here you're gonna wipe. So
right. My issue here was that Charlotte dies, whatever, just re-raise her. But the problem is he dispels your entire team, so you don't get re-raised and you're screwed.
See, Hazard, that is why you need a better tank. See, so you should have put on the Cecil banner instead of the Final Fantasy Tactics one.
But you used Chao.
Why didn't you?
I actually did use Chao as the second tank on that the first time. I remember.
But the thing is, his Charlotte died. My Chao survived.
Why didn't you just have
Chao did not die?
Spam re-raise every turn.
The re-raise doesn't work on that turn.
Perhaps you just got lucky damage rolls and Hazard got the worst ones. Perhaps.
I don't know. That'd be pretty unlucky if I got hit like that 10 times in a row. I have video and pictures, so I mean,
Cotton's always lucky.
I hear what you're saying, me, but I just think Hazard is really bad at the game.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think I like units I don't have to change the gear on and that have foolproof strategies for recovery?
Oh yeah, that was the problem. His Merc Ramza was geared for physical tanking, and then he went into the trial with Merc Ramza.
If somebody like Cotton is better at a trial than you messed up. You really did.
Wow. Bringing the fire.
I mean, for this trial, I did use Cecil because I, pulled him and wanted to put him through his paces, and he was ridiculous. I was just using his own buffs and his 75% general mitigation from stance swapping each turn, and with the series buff, he had 34,000 health. I don't think he ever went below 10k.
That is disgusting.
And he allowed me to do it with 5 units. I was using Cecil, Evade, Provoke, Kryler, Lena, who didn't even do much, and then Kurasame and a friend for Salas for chaining. And
that
it worked
disgusting.
Very smoothly.
That is obscene.
Well, you saw Sunkar's clear that he used just 4 units, right?
Yeah, mine's kind of not that impressive compared to that. But
I will say,
I still liked when you were chasing Kurasames all over the Discord. I really liked that. That was fun.
Yeah, I have to do some interesting friend searching for that.
You could have asked me. I have Kurasame. I have his STMR.
Yeah, I've found half a dozen that I can reliably call on, which is good.
You mean reliably harass?
Yeah, harass people for. But no, I'll actually be doing the same for probably Iron Giant later today. And actually, it's one of the few fights that it's better to build him for magic, at least with my gear. So that's interesting.
Interesting. I like hearing that you're using units that are not the top and there are kind of not many people use.
Yeah, I have not pulled for a new damage dealer in quite a while.
That's most of the fun of the game to me. Actually, is using units that everyone else considers subpar to be able to clear that same content. It's a lot more fun. Long live Magdalena.
Now you're talking like Meet Me on Mars.
That's one of the reasons I actually started watching his stuff is because of how unique his clears are. And there's a bunch of people on the wiki. If you look at the ways different people clear these trials, it's really interesting the team comps people come up with.
There's some pretty interesting ones. And then you go back to an old trial. Like the other day, I looked at the original Blood Moon, and there is a massive list of clears, and almost every single one of them is using a pair of Trance Terror or Grimlord Sakura, who I didn't have either of at the time.
The days.
Could have used
I remember. Trance Terror being good, yeah.
Those were not the days.
Those were the days. The 6-star meta was the best one.
That's back when Titus was good, right? That's the last time he was good.
2 double hands, fixed dice team.
Days of fixed dice.
The dream.
Oh boy.
I'm so glad they nerfed that crap.
Yeah, agreed.
This is the days of the...
And speaking of Final Fantasy X, actually,
the summon change.
We actually do have kind of a teaser of enhancements coming this month, and I thought Meme would like to comment because Jekt is one of the units listed for enhancements. What do you think he's going to get?
It's hard to judge since Global likes to change up enhancements. So it's been a while since I've checked his JP enhancements.
Yeah.
Give me just one second. I think in terms of damage, he becomes pretty good. That's what I recall, but it's nothing to really write a book about. It's not insane high damage that he gains.
Yeah,
I do know that
from memory.
in comparison, Tidus, the original Tidus, becomes a viable damage dealer again. He gets around, I think, 11,000 to 12,000 modifiers each turn.
That's with series boss buffs, though, rather than just enhancements. I remember with Jekt and Tifa enhancements, I a while ago did a few calculations on both of them, and if I remember correctly, they were around that 10, 12 Aloha Laswell type level, so they probably need to be, I would say, about 50% stronger on GL to sort of be a decent, usable meta level.
The issue Jack still has after his enhancements is he still lacks a strong self-attack buff. He doesn't have that in his kit, and I don't understand why.
So
he doesn't have a 200% or
250%
attack buff.
One thing we have to look forward to is that
series boss then.
What people noticed was that his LB was saying that it buffed several skills that don't exist yet. So in JP, his enhancements did not change his LB, and his LB doesn't do anything like that. So it's clear that he's getting GL exchanges. So it could be that his LB will also buff attack once they actually go through with the enhancements or something.
Well, but that will slightly hinder his damage potential overall because his limit burst is a finisher and not a chain.
Yeah, that's true.
And you'll likely want to use him as a
chain. Multiple times. Not likely though. I don't think they've ever changed a unit's LB to be multiple hits because that would make them change the animation probably.
Actually, Kurisame's upgraded limit burst was changed from 1 hit to being chaining. It's 16 hits now, I think.
Oh, huh.
I mean,
yeah, but I mean, also yeah. Sorry, go on.
I mean, so far Global has been going quite good with enhancements, so his fingers crossed we'll get them fixed.
Yeah, really, I'm hoping Jekt is gonna be TDW. To be honest, like get actual use out of his STMR.
He has a bit of support for it in his passives, but he has more.
In JP, they did focus on his true double hand capabilities, and I'd like to see him as a true dual wielder. I think
really,
that's
I don't
better.
At this point, I think I've said this in a previous episode, but I don't really expect enhancements to bring old damage dealers back to the top. But if you can wind up at like 15 or 16 billion damage per turn, which is around Kurasame, Aldor King Ray, and all that, I think it would be good because at that point he's relevant, even though he's not top tier.
That's what I miss about the 6-star meta. Enhancements were able to get you back on the top. So many times we've seen old units become top tier units again.
I think that at this point, rainbow rates are high enough that that it's more okay if old units fall out of the meta, just because it's not as difficult to pull newer, better ones. There was a time when you would pull really hard for a rainbow, and it would cost you like 2 or 3 months worth of lapis, and you might strike out. And that doesn't happen anymore, thankfully.
Well, but you also have to look at that way. That back then you only had to pull one single copy. There was no STMR. There was no 7-star.
I mean, with select tickets, that's still kind of true. If you can just
so long you don't.
Prism.
I think
so
they've
long
done a
you just
pretty good
don't
job.
do like barrels and pull on limited banners.
Honestly,
yeah, I still feel so like there's a big hard error, right? I'm a big hard moron for pulling on the big hard banner.
Didn't you read the news?
No, I didn't. See, you know what? I am like one of those idiots that were complaining about Esther nerfs because they didn't read that she was nerfed before they started pulling. And I was like, oh my God, what kind of fucking idiot do you have to be to pull on a banner before actually checking what's like going on that banner? And then I like make the exact same mistake.
Here we go.
See, this is
you
why
just always have to bring up Esther, don't you?
This is why I don't pull unlimited banners almost ever, unless it's rainbow or limited. Unless it's banner
I don't
only
pull
units.
on limited banners either, friend. I don't, but
You just did. You realize
the last time I've actively chased a limited unit was, I think, around Lilith's release. I think that was the very last time I've went harder for a limited unit.
I do pull for limited
units. Then I've just passed up on them.
But only when they're not DPS, because those units tend to hold their value more. Like Lucas is still pretty good. He is overshadowed by Cecil in many ways, but I think there's still enough places where Lucas gets to shine that I can see myself bringing him out of the bringing him out of the box.
So, somebody pointed out that they go pretty well together by using Lucas as a provoke tank and Cecil or Cecil, whatever you prefer, as the magic tank. And I do think that's quite a good combination. It's safe. It doesn't have the same synergy as Awakened Warrior, Flight, and Cecil, in my opinion, but it's still very good, especially if you want these imbues or imperils. I think that
one thing that's really cool about that combo is that if you do that, you can get 100% uptime on their magic mitigation buffs. You'll cycle through 50% and 75% magic mid.
So we really appreciate you coming on the episode and talking with us about all the different units that came out and kind of your style. It's interesting to get your take on how you look at these units and how you approach those things. If people want to look at your work, not only just on the Reddit, but more of your work, where can they find you?
You can find me either on Reddit, where I normally post between Friday and Monday. I can't really predict when I'm going to post since I live in a flat share apartment with 6 other people. And if they feel like, okay, let's do a community evening, let's play some games, or let's drink some, or let's eat together, I say yes. And if I do happen to write a review at that time, I just postpone it. If something else interferes, such as a friend calling me and asking if I want to hang out, I say yes to him. So it's very easy for me to postpone my reviews without even actively trying to, by saying, oh man, I just don't want to write it. Of course that occurs. But past Sunday, I do not postpone reviews to Monday if I simply am too lazy to write them. So, but yeah, between Monday and Friday and Monday, after the units are released. And you can also find me on the forum, which is either accessible by simply Googling the unit name, and you'll find the forum review quite easily, which is a bit more, the forum reviews are a bit more aesthetically appealing than Reddit, but that's mainly because Reddit is quite restrictive in trying to be appealing.
Yeah, you used to have all these colors, and now there's no more colors on your reviews.
Yeah, I used to. I don't know why. Looking back on it, I really don't know why it was. Firstly, it was a lot of unnecessary work by trying to highlight everything and giving them a unique color. First, it started out to be just rainbow, a mix of every single color for no reason. Then I matched those colors within the own segments, but that still looked like a rainbow in the end. And then I just went ahead and on just coloring the units' names to still have some color in those reviews, but not too much. And I think that's for the best. I've also changed my review style over the years. I've started out with very, very in-depth reviews, which mine are still in-depth, but not as much as they used to be. And nowadays they are more in an overview style. Of course, there's still a lot of information, and yeah.
Gotcha. Well, thanks so much. We appreciate the reviews that you do. And I know that not everyone appreciates it, but I mean, you have to ignore those people.
Some people try to call me out for, hey man, this review is only good for noobs, but I have never stated that my reviews are aimed at players who know the game well. Of course, there's still a few information like damage dealing, which is appealing to players who obviously know how to evaluate a unit for themselves. I think I don't have to tell you as a person or anybody in this podcast, you need to use this unit like this. I don't think you need that, but there are still many people who genuinely are new to the game or aren't as experienced as some others, so they do appreciate it. So I don't understand why people try to call me out on describing abilities. If it's not even aimed at them, you can just skip that part and not read it. It's that simple. And instead, you waste your own time on writing a comment about why is this guy doing this? I already know all of this. Why is he writing it down? I'm not writing it down for you. That's just...
Yeah, one of the things I appreciate about Reddit is that you get a lot of different flavors. So people that appreciate your flavor can get a lot out of it. And people that don't, as you said, can move right on. So, well, thanks again for coming on the podcast. We really appreciate the conversation we had today. about these different units. And we'll see you guys next week. Talk to you later.